Hi trader, last week there was a ton of volatility in the market, but eventually the US dollar did come out stronger. We will take a look at the euro dollar, pound USD, dollar yen, and AUD USD. First of all though, be aware that this video is shown to a global audience, but may not be suitable for everyone. Take a look at animalmarketsglobal.com, select your country of residence, and contact an appropriate entity. Also, please be aware that trading for exchange and global financial markets is considered high risk and may not be suitable for everyone. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. By continuing watching this video, you agree with this disclaimer and you are aware of the risk involved when trading. Our daily chart, and you see a large candle here with a big wick on top. There was a lot of volatility throughout Friday as price actually soared lower, then up, and then back down, closing very near the low, indicating bearishness. So if we put that in context and look at the weekly chart, what I think we're looking at is basically a triangle, a wave A, B, C, and most likely a wave D, E to follow. At this point, I think price is probably in a wave D still, and I think we'll see a bounce up to wave E, and then we'll see the continuation of the bearish momentum we've had here at the beginning of 2015. Now, the alternative could be that prices actually finish the wave D and wave E. That could happen too. In that case, price would have to break, for instance, 108, this support level, the triangle right here. First of all, it would have to break 108, and then of course the bottom eventually as well. So we'll have to see how price responds to these, especially this triangle bottom and 108. If it bounces anywhere in there, I would say it's still pretty likely that we're in a wave D. If it breaks 108, then the likelihood of price continuing lower is definitely increasing, and there could be a bearish breakout in the long run. On the daily chart, we can see that a bit better. You can see that price has respected the 61.8 fib here, but also the 61.8 fib here from these swing highs, swing lows, basically this one and this one. So we're basically bouncing between support and resistance, between these golden ratios, between these fib ratios, and that's why we have these trend lines on. So yeah, I think that for the moment, this is actually starting to look like an ABC correction here. That is probably part one of a larger correction that would turn out to be wave D. But you can see that if we break through this trend line, but also through basically the 61.8 zone here and the 108 support levels, then I would consider wave D less and less likely. Actually, wave D becomes invalidated if price breaks through this bottom. Right, the wave D in a contracting triangle cannot break below the bottom. That is the absolute last point that wave D is not possible. But I think that price should bounce early on a wave D. That's why I said 108, 107.50. Once it breaks that, there is probably a good likelihood of a continuation. So these are all bouncing spots right here at 110 and the support trend line at 108, 175 as well. Once it breaks through those levels, there could be breakouts to the downside. At the moment, though, of course, you see prices in this triangle bouncing off this resistance. So what I'm looking for actually now, considering the strength of this daily candle, is a bit of pullback to the 38.2 fib, and I think there could be a sweet trade to the bottom of the triangle. That's how I look at it at this moment. Pretty strong candle, so I think that there's a good chance of continuation to the bottom of this triangle, and then we'll have to see how price behaves at that support level. For the moment though, as you can see, as indicated in my daily wave analysis as well, I expect that this was a ABC correction like this to finish a bigger wave W basically like this, and this I thought was an X, and I thought that there was an ABC going up for X, and that seems to be playing out very nicely indeed, and we're seeing the fact that it hit resistance, turn around, and breaking this momentum. So that seems to be playing out very nicely. What I'll be looking for, and price could still inch lower, but I'll be looking for a pullback to the 38.2 fib, preferably in kind of a channel that could be seen as a bear flag, for instance, or a rising wedge, and I would be looking for a turnaround for that downside. So if we zoom into the hourly, you can see basically the three-wave motion here, the correction up, and price respecting this resistance as well. So yeah, let's see. We got a bit of a bullish candle here on the hourly already. Not sure if that's enough. As I said, it could inch lower a bit, or maybe gap lower, basically here, and make a correction upwards to the fib that is on the 4-hour chart here. Like 112.40, maybe even the 23.6 or the 50. But anywhere around these fibs, I would expect to turn. This fib, what I have on here, is showing the 78.6 fib bounce, and it could still go to this target, for instance, right? Make a bit of a correction like this, hit, and then make the bigger correction on the 4-hour chart. All right, so that's basically my idea for the euro dollar. We're going to take a look at the other pairs in just a second. Wanted to let you know about the webinar schedule we have. Thursday, we're going to take a look at simple strategies on daily time frames. I think that could be highly interesting for you. Next week, we continue with our regular schedule. Nenet has his weekly FX recap and expert opinion. Strategy is my focus with the Keltner indicator on Wednesday, and live trading is back on Tuesday the 13th. And we're going to be continuing next week with our regular schedule. But this week, still, we have the simple strategies on daily time frames. USD made the same volatility, as you can see, bouncing off actually a resistance level. That's the exact resistance trend line here that's connecting all these tops, and was expecting a turnaround. It was a decision spot. A bullish break or bearish bounce was a key level. It decided for a bearish bounce. You can see a bit of a rising wedge as well, indicated by these lines, a heavy resistance line as well, so not surprising. Plus, if you add a fib, basically from here to here, you see that price was respecting the 78.6 resistance level. So a very, very heavy resistance zone, and price respecting that eventually and making a bearish turn, plus bearish breakout, because look at this candle piercing through the purple channel that is on this chart. So looks like we're going to see again here a bounce, but also I would expect a follow through to the support, just like on the euro dollar. That support level could see a bounce, or it could be a break. That's again a very critical decision zone for a bullish bounce or bearish break. If it is a bearish break, I would expect momentum to follow through, and we can see price heading towards 125, for instance, maybe lower. If it is a bullish bounce, then this could be turning into a triangle 2 with an A, B, C, D, and then eventually E as well, just like on the euro dollar, and it could be a turn and break later on. All right, it depends what I expect, or when will we expect basically the dollar strength to fully materialize and continue, as I would expect at this moment, considering this momentum as well. So moving back to the 4-hour and hourly chart here, basically I'm looking for a retracement. So what I'll be doing is simply putting a fib from here to here. Of course, as I said, with the euro dollar, price could inch lower, during the week, but eventually I'll be expecting the price to pull back to these fibs. I will move this fib, of course, to the recent bottom and look for a pullback to the fibs for a turnaround towards those targets. All right, that's my game plan. Same thing on the pound. Dollar yen is showing a strong bounce too, just expected on the wave analysis as well. I was indicating on the hourly chart that I'm looking at a wave 1, 2, wave 1, 2, for a wave 3 to start. Well, certainly looks like that is happening. Look at that strength here on the hourly. So that looks like a wave 3 indeed. I would expect wave 4s, like a bull flag, and then a continuation upwards, considering the momentum, which certainly looks like a wave 3. All right, so that's all playing out. From a weekly perspective, why is this potentially happening? And we talked about this as well, is the fact that here's a 50 fib. Key level for 2 reasons. Now, first of all, there are tops and bottoms here. Second of all, it's of course an important fib. Thirdly, we bounce. Actually, the third reason is there's a psychological 100 level. So if price breaks through that zone, there was a chance, of course, that it could be a break and a move down to the 61.8 fib. Alternatively, it could easily have been a support level for a bullish bounce, which had a bit of my preference, considering also the length it took here. Look at how many candles did not break this low. So it seemed increasingly like there was a good chance there could be a bounce, a second bounce, because we of course had a bounce already here. This would basically be the pullback after the bounce and the failure to break, and this is basically the hook back after bouncing at the 50. So it, obviously starting to look like that, considering last week's bullish candle. The confirmation is when price breaks above this channel. We got a pretty clear channel here on the daily chart. So the break of that channel, of course, what could happen is price moves up to this channel, maybe even makes a new bull flag or makes a correction back down to support. But eventually I would expect this channel to break, and once it does, that would be the confirmation of the bounce at the 50 fib. So at the moment though, bullish, I would expect price to retest this channel. At that channel, I'm cautious again because it could create a correction, a deep correction back to support, after which I would expect a bounce and break, or it could create a bull flag and subsequent break most likely. All right, to test 107.50 most likely, where there's a resistance spot. For the moment though, if we zoom into lower time frames like this, as I said, price could still continue, but eventually I will look for some kind of correction to take it up to the resistance level. AUD basically is in a channel. It went up to the channel, hit the channel, and turned around. On the 4-hour chart, we can see that a bit better. Basically riding this support level. We had, I think last week, indicating that, let's take a look where last week was. Last week was 21st of August. Yeah, somewhere here. So that was a bounce or break spot. It actually bounced, retested, and bounced, and then bounced off this resistance, making kind of a three-wave pattern like this, and then bouncing to the downside. So pretty neat respect for these trend lines. Ultimately bounce, 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 but here there was a break. So let's take a look at this from a bigger perspective again. And if we look at this from the daily chart, you can see we're struggling to break this top, and price is breaking through the purple channel. All right, I mean this purple channel. All right, so from that perspective, it looks like price is unable to break through this resistance zone that I have right here indicated, and price is actually breaking through this uptrend channel. So here too, I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of a pullback and price fall down to these support levels. On the weekly chart, I think we can see that a bit better, probably like that. You know, there's still support levels to reckon with right here. These trend lines indicate that pretty neatly. Those levels are at 75 and 74, 72.50. So those could still be bouncing spots, but you can see, considering the wicks here, considering the two bearish candles in a row, I think any retracement should see follow through to the downside. But be aware, Aussie support, I think, is relatively close by compared to the other pairs. Thanks for joining this video. Hope to see you in those webinars, and wish you all great trading. Cheers.